Hi, everyone. Good morning and welcome to the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox, episode 247. Doing it live as we're continuing every Monday, having this live on all social media for LinkedIn, Facebook, all the Toolbox stuff. If you're listening on the podcast, whenever you're listening to it, it's July 4th. I hope you're having a great holiday weekend, enjoying yourself. But we can't stop, won't stop. And so we're going to be doing these shows. One thing is the title of this program I've had like immigration practice thoughts. So what I do is during the week, I write down 10 different things I learned or things I want to talk about and put them all together. And I just realized a couple of stuff I was supposed to talk about. I was going to research more, but we'll research it together while we're doing this, I guess. And so I just updated the names, maybe the top 10 immigration tips for the week kind of thing to help you get started with your week and to just learn. There's so much content and knowledge here that just happens on so regularly on immigration that I'm just going to do that to share it. So we're looking forward to that. Now, a couple of things. The new issue of the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox was launched last week. I'm still cleaning it up because I just wanted to get it out in July. But so that's there if you go to immigrationlawyerstoolboxmagazine.com, immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com/magazine. You can see it there. But also, catch the old ones too. There's just so much information there to be a great immigration practitioner. If you want to be a great immigration practitioner, you have to read this magazine. They're associated because the content's there and you want to stay on top of stuff. You got to do this. So go to immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com/magazine and check it out. You can always download it. A lot of people email me asking for print copies. You can just download a PDF of it. So over downloading, print it out and view it that way too. So that's something to do. Mind you, we have wonderful sponsors. Argo.com sponsored this episode and this issue of the magazine. They're really cool. They got a bunch of former consular officers that your clients and you could consult with to prepare you for what you're dealing with at the embassy. And so it's really good having that internal edge of that information. A wonderful colleague, Mandy Fearbacker, also an immigration lawyer, heads it. And she'll be on the show. She's been on the show before, but she's going to come on and talk about that. So definitely a great sponsor to check out and to just see what they could do to help. A lot of times I've had clients use too. Most of the time when I use them is for clients that just really need a lot of hand holding and they're really worried. And so they go talk with Argo. It helps calm them down, having to test through with a former consular officer. They put on that serious face and try to bring that energy so a client knows how it is. And so when they go to the actual interview, they've already done it once before. It calms them down a lot. So it's a great service that started. It's good having these third-party services in the immigration space. And as always, DocWise.com has been such a great sponsor for the magazine and the podcast. The all-in-one form service system, so you could have the intake forms, you could do the forms itself, you could do management of stuff, time tracking for invoices, all this kind of stuff. Just go to docwise.com/immigration-lawyers-toolbox. Yeah, or podcast when I'm doing the podcast. And use the code Immigration Lawyers Podcast to get 10% off your annual plan. They're constantly updating stuff. They're putting so much investment into having the most up-to-date things and listening to what you're saying to make their product better. So it's definitely a great sponsor. Check them out, their stuff in the magazine. They talk about what they're doing. We'll have them on the show too to have a special episode to see what updates they're having. We're going to do that soon with them. So stay tuned for that. We try to do it every quarter. I think it's been more than a quarter now for that one. All right, some more housekeeping. Check us out on social media. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. So Instagram is probably one of the best places to check it out because we have tons of clips there. So if you can't listen to the whole podcast, you're trying to get to the meat and potatoes, the juicy part of it on the podcast. There's so many clips there on the YouTube page as well. There's over 1,400 or 1,500 subscribers on YouTube. A lot of content that goes on that page. So check it out. I'm going to be doing an Ask Me Anything where you could just ask me general questions. We got a bunch of questions already. Going to be recording that soon. But if you have questions about me, my practice, the toolbox, whatever, let me know. And a couple more other things. I'm creating a community page. I've just purchased this software that helps us have like a community page where you ask questions and stuff like that. I'm slowly bringing it out because I want to test it out more. But especially if you're a newer lawyer and you want to learn stuff, just email me if you're interested in that. We'll get you on that page. And I'm just kind of not putting out there too directly because this software is new. I'm going to learn the nuances if I really push it. So if you heard this little segment, email me at info@immigrationlawyerstoolbox.com and we can get you in the group if you're an immigration lawyer too, practicing immigration lawyer. One or two more things. One is, my law firm is expanding. We're not necessarily looking to hire someone today. But if you're someone who's listening to this podcast, that means you're really into immigration law, and that's kind of spirit and energy we want. So I thought I'd start putting it out there to email me if you're an immigration practitioner, particular lawyer per se, either in the U.S. or international. You're a lawyer in Turkey or something like that. Definitely email me so we could, at least talk, get to know you. So when the time comes, having that relationship is better than nothing. So I thought I'd use this forum for that. And the last thing I'm debating what to talk about now. Last week I decided I'm going to have a conference that I'm going to set up for the Immigration Toolbox. Then I started studying what it requires to make a conference, and I'm like, okay, that's too much. So I'm going to back it up and probably do a workshop in LA on a business immigration topic, like an E2, L1, or something like that. If you're interested in doing an in-person workshop where it's an all-day thing at a hotel with lunch and all that kind of stuff, and get together, and a lot of it is not just the content, but it's the community, getting to know people, and that one-on-one relationship in person. I think now the COVID's, it's worse than ever, but at the same time, it is what it is. People are getting back to their lives. So we're going to set that up. I really want to see is who's interested. It'll be in LA, one-day affair, probably on a Friday or Saturday. Just email me. Let me know if that's something generally interests you so I could test out how many people are interested. Hopefully have 20, 30 people in a room, have some experts there, talk about stuff. So you really learn the material, have breakout rooms where you get to know each other, talk about business, have drinks afterwards, all that kind of stuff. And that's what the in-person things, the next step, what we're doing between the magazine, the podcast, all this stuff, and then work our way up and develop a conference out of that. Start in LA, New York, Miami, different parts of the country to get this stuff going, to connect people. Because the community, you guys don't see it because you all listen and stuff, but y'all reach out to me. So people are really into this podcast. There are people who are really care about immigration law. So instead of having, it's good that I like people reaching out to me talking, but you all connect with each other too. So it's not a vertical, it's more of a horizontal. Everyone's getting together about it. So I really want to bring that community sense. That site I talked about earlier is part of that, but also in person is going to be an important thing. So having said all that, I always start with, this is not intended as individual legal guidance. Please consult with an attorney about your case. This is really for professionals in the field to have some idea of what's going on. The laws change frequently, and every week I'm like making a correction for the previous week. So it gives you some idea what's going on before you start getting into this. So let me get to this side. Without further ado, let's get it started. Okay, so I think I'll start with the correction kind of for last week. It's not fully a correction, but that they announced in the Federal Register that they're easing certain laws related to, let me cough, let me go put on mute for a second. Okay, so I had a 2-hour employee meeting before this. It's supposed to have gone for 45 minutes, but always goes to 2 hours. Monday morning. So then I do a 2-hour meeting and then immediately come and do a half-an-hour podcast. And I forgot to block my calendar out for consultations. So then a bunch of people schedule consultations on July 4th, and then my wife gets angry. It's like, our families are coming over. Why do I do a consultation? So luckily I was able to cut it off. They're all in the morning, so the family's coming out at new afternoon. So I got to do some more consultations today. And so this throat has to be there. Then I got to yell at kids to not mess around because all the family kids are going to be around. So today's going to be a rough day, but sorry to put that all on here, but that'll be I just talk what's on my mind. All right. So going back to the law at hand. They said for Afghanistan, the Federal Register, they updated that they're going to ease certain inadmissibility claims for terrorism because people in Afghanistan in particular. They didn't name Afghanistan in particular, but it's made for them. Saying that, excuse me, I'll be mute. I don't want to cough and you're hearing this in the car. Okay, so they're going to ease it so that they won't have problems. They were forced into it or didn't do something big for the organization. And this was a big deal in the Iranian community because people that were part of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps or Sepah were being denied visas for the last 2 years. And it's been really disruptive for people that married somebody who, like maybe 20 years ago, that person was forced into conscription military service with the IRGC for like a year and a half, and they weren't even into it, but now they're being hit by it. Does this update to regulation include them or not? It's not clear. At first, there are rumors like, oh, it clears it, and I didn't want to go that hardcore into it because that's probably something I last one. So I'm like, we'll see how it actually plays out. But then there's rumors that the head of the State Department who runs this program said, no, this isn't going to apply to Iran and the IRGC, but I can't find that information in an actual statement online. So just be prepared for that if you're doing these clients. Essentially, we're back to square one. No one knows, but maybe it's going to help out. But we'll see. So that's really important information to get out. The second thing is about the I-693 medical checkup that you do in the U.S. It's probably the same with when you're doing the panel physician for consular processing. But when you're going to do adjustment status in the United States, you have to submit form I-693. And what I do as a policy is I tell my clients certain things to prep for this. One is like calling around because their prices are so all over the place. Second thing is asking them how long they get the results. Some places take a week. Some people take 2 months to get you the results. But one of the mandatory ones is I always ask him, hey, in addition to the sealed envelope they give you of your results, get a full-on copy for your attorney to review, and ask them that or schedule time that they do that. If they don't, then say, I'm not going to go to you. So I told this one client, they didn't ask any things I asked, but they went and got it. And I said, where's a copy? They said, oh, we don't have it. So they called the doctor up. The doctor won't release it. And the doctor says, no, it's just for the government. It's illegal for me to release it to you. And I hate when I do this because then I got to call and yell at them essentially and threaten lawsuits. So we contact them and say, essentially, hey, dummy, look at the I-693 instructions on the form. It says you're supposed to make one copy for your sealed envelope, another copy for yourself at your office, but a third copy for the client. Go check out the training that you had that you didn't pay attention to that said this. And go check out the state medical board licensing that says if you're going to talk to a patient, you have to give them the results. That's in the law. So if you want to have your license taken away as a physician, do your goddamn job. And then, I don't like confronting people with that. I'm not I do marriage-based immigration. I don't go to removal. So you can tell, like, I'm not a person who likes to go and argue with people. So, but it gets my blood boiling when they do that, especially in this case. It was so egregious. First of all, the idiot doctor, and I shouldn't be using language like this, but it's just complete idiot, used the old form I-693. So immediately that medical would have been denied. Secondly, they didn't fill out their information properly there. Third, they didn't cross out on the lines on the vaccine page to mark which vaccine. So it was just full of RFE material. And if we didn't request this, the person would have gone to the interview. The doctor, the USCIS officer would have opened it up and said, what is this mess? And then they have to go back, do a new medical. That this doctor being the mentality they had, they probably would have charged him for that. And then resubmit it. That's an RFE. It takes more time to get approval, more delay in getting residency. So as you can tell, I'm very frustrated because I hate people not doing their job right. And a lot of times these civil surgeons, it's a hustle just to make numbers on this. They make $400 a pop on these medical checkups, if not more, if they do vaccines or if they rip them off and charge. I've had doctors charge $1,200. It's ridiculous that they rip people off. And so I get really frustrated. Support people like I spend money on this medical and stuff, and then get tested all this, and then getting this kind of results. Like, have some respect for your job. Like, pay attention what you're doing. So it's very offensive. And internally, I'm probably gonna do this for those part of the community for the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox. Accumulating a list of doctors that are really repugnant in how they operate and how much they charge and stuff like that, and we can share it with each other. I'm going to accumulate a list in Los Angeles. At least that's where I deal with most on this. And so we have that internally. So we tell our clients, if you're in a certain city, we don't know these doctors, we don't have a relationship with them, but we've seen them do better work. And if their work gets bad, then we mark them off the list. But to kind of have some sort of community list of these doctors, because I'm so tired. About it's 10%. That's not too much, but when you have to contact doctors and yell at them to do their job, I prefer not to. And I prefer clients don't pay $1,200 for a medical checkup that other doctors do for $400. So if we maybe follow clients, see how much they paid, how the doctors was, and create an internal review sheet, maybe it'll work, maybe not. But that's something that I had in mind as part of the Toolbox community we're talking about. All right, the third thing is really nasty with regard to the wait times that we're having for the embassies for non-immigrant visas. I have a case for E2 for France, and it's probably going to take at least 4 to 6 months just to get the interview. This is horrible because this person already started the investment. The business is just going to sit there. I'm telling him, you got to hire people just to hold things over while you're waiting it out. But he doesn't want to do it. He wants to come here and run the operation first and hire when he's here, not just hire and leave the whole business to them. It's just so disruptive for international trade, especially the U.S., with all the foreign direct investment we're having in the United States, to have embassy appointments taking for investment case. Now, even for tourist visas, student visas, they're getting backed out. They're missing their start date for school. Their life's falling behind because, imagine you have a fall semester start date for an F1, and then you can't get your interview. They're speeding interviews up for F1, so this is not normally the case anymore. But imagine when it was, that's going to take forever. But for an E2, they invest all this money. They can't come and operate their business. It's so disruptive. And I had asked around, and people have told me it takes 2 to 8 weeks for France. So I'm like, okay, it's good. Because the websites give you a number that's an average, so it's 200 days, which is not true. But then when we start getting into it, no, it's going to take more right now, it's July, we're doing this, probably November would be the first time. Now you could sign up and schedule a calendar for November, and then keep rechecking the site every day to see if an interview appointment pops up because someone canceled. And that happens. That's probably what the people told me that you could get it sooner to do. But it's not reliable, and now this person has to leave and stuff like that. So just prepare for these E2 wait times. If you do E2, if we're going to get into whatever, it's just so annoying. Another thing I want to make quick reference of, because I don't usually do this, but someone had listed that OPLA, I think there's the immigration court system, are arguing that the PD memo, PD as prosecutorial discretion memo, was vacated as of June 23rd, 2022. So they're saying like they're not. They had the government's attorney say we're not going to honor the prosecutorial discretion memo because it was vacated in June, so you can't make these arguments anymore. So if you're doing immigration court kind of stuff, as you know, I don't do that, so I don't want to talk too much about it. But we prepared for that. It's something that's popping up. Okay, note number 5, I-864 regulations. It's so important to read the CFR section on this. So one thing is, and I just try to share with my students, I'll share it too, like whenever you're getting into immigration casing, if you know it really well, always check the INA in the Code of Federal Regulations, as well as the instructions for the form if you're dealing with the form, because that's what knowledge is. A lot of times we just use cover letters from other people or just go through the forms and just do it. But being familiar with the nuances of the regulations, the citing to regulations is really good. One of the easiest ways for most cases is to go to 8 CFR, because that's where most immigration rules are, not always. And then to go type in 8 CFR, and then like for me, it's affidavit of support, where I'm going to talk about right now. And then when you do that, it comes out to 8 CFR section 213.8.2. And there's information here that's really long, but you really should read this section on the affidavit of support. A lot of good information there to prepare you for any answers, just to get you a better lawyer. But in particular, the requirements that they have for the I-864 is that the person be making the income in the year that the case is filed, the I-864 is filed with the application. So if you file the I-864 in 2022, that's the year that you got to show you're making income in. And the primary way they say that they're going to do it on is based on your current year's income. So that's the focus. So it can be, and a lot of times in my case, I have one right now that we're going to file. You don't necessarily have to have 3 years of income. You can have 0 and then start working, but show that this year you have a reasonable expectancy that you're going to be making the required amount this year. Now, I've always followed the haven't had issues. A lot of lawyers I've on things where they say, no, we want 3 years worth of income to show it. I think that's overkill because the regulations don't require that. If it's reasonable that the person making the money right now, they approve it. And I've always had adjustment status get approved. I deal with a lot of marriage cases for people that met in like grad school and then they gain their first job or something like that, or college, they gain their first job. I'm in LA next to USC, UCLA, Loyola, Pepperdine, and like other colleges. So a lot of I never had a problem with that. So I always file like that. We just get pay stubs, show they're making money now and they made the income. So it's really important to read these regulations and throw it back at USCI so they're hassling you on stuff. Just to general, I wanted to mention it because this is such a good regulation to know well, because the affidavit support it's so complicated. So that's just really important thing to have there. Okay, so number 6, matter of E-F-N from the BIA. Essentially, they're going to check your social media to challenge your false testimony. So it's a thing where essentially the government can do their own search of social media. In this case, the person who filed for asylum, they said one story, but then they're like, well, you have your social media, it shows another story. What's going on? And they try to challenge that, but just prepare as you should. Social media can be looked at in cases. I do require my clients to, as part of our internal intake, list their social media cases and stuff. And we just do a public scan. I don't need their passwords and they add me, but just to see if there's anything crazy on there. As people sometimes post funny stuff that's inappropriate or stuff, we try to look at it and see what's going on, especially for marriage cases. It's like, you're married, you have pictures of a bunch of other girls, like how does that look? I had a guy who was a club promoter, and to make it lively that he's a club promoter, he always had like different women and pictures and stuff. I'm like, dude, you're married, you shouldn't have this. He's like, no, I need this because it's club promoting. And so we're able to deal with that, but at least I know, like, if they go search the answer, you could say, listen, I'm a club promoter. We have to sell sex, essentially. You have to show that, like, oh, these beautiful women are here, so come check out this club. And he has all his followers, so essentially that's what he's doing. It's not his personal page. It's a business thing. So, okay, we have an answer for that, then that's that. Number 7 is regarding the B1 domestic worker or servant. This is such a weird category. So, essentially, if someone's like on an L1, they're like this rich executive on an L1, they want to come to the United States, and they have a household, domestic worker, they call them now. It's a more appropriate way to say it. They want to bring with them. Apparently, it used to be that the person would file for a B1 for that person. They would enter, and at the airport, CBP would give them a work permit, and they would come in. But CBP stopped giving out work permits like 20 or 30 years ago or some whatever that was before my time. And so there's a problem now that this person comes in, as soon as they hear, they have to file for I-765, the work authorization, because the regulations say that a person coming as B1 domestic worker has to have work authorization under 8 CFR, blah, 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 another 8 CFR thing you got to look up. And so immediately everyone comes in is immediately violating status. So imagine they're here, they violate status working, they eventually get the work permit. When they go to do an I-539 extension, there's a question, have you violated your status? then it's like, yes, no, is that going to be misrep if you don't say it? Now, what colleagues have always told me, I haven't done this myself, is they just renew it and it's been okay. And someone showed me the website for domestic work B1, and USCIS says it's not required to get I-65, but you can. Although in the Code of Federal Regulations, it's differently. So if you're going to do this, take a screenshot of that page and have that, so they don't come, if they come back later, say, listen, USCIS, your website says this. My website's not regulation. And so it's a really annoying mess, and I wish they would deal with this, because the fact that I-765 for B1 will probably take at least 3 to 6 months. This person's here, whether they're not going to work, just sit there, so immediately they're going to violate. So the whole system doesn't make any sense. Apparently, colleagues have said they just understand it, just let it go. But I would have that screenshot of that website, file for the I-65, and then when renewing the I-530, mention that, yeah, they did work. Your website says this. Try to cover yourselves because that's just the nonsense that we're dealing with, because they haven't updated things accordingly. Matter number eight is really important, because they updated matter of ZRC, which is really good. Matter of ZRC was I think it was like a policy memo that was based on a BI decision, where they said, or not BI, AO or something like that. Essentially, they said if you're coming on TPS with advanced parole, the advanced parole is not like a new entry admission; it's not considered an admission. And so it's kind of like when you have DACA and you do advanced parole, it becomes an entry that allows you to adjust status. That they said it's not going to have for TPS. Supreme Court even said that. But they undid matter of ZRC, and they said we're going to issue a new type of trial document specific for TPS holders. It's not advanced parole, and that is considered an admission, which will be great if they have an immediate relative case. Once they do that admission, that fixes things up. So that was a really neat thing that popped up. Essentially throwing away matter of Z-R-C. They should know and have it when you're dealing with TPS. Number 9 is CBP just willy-nilly published that, oh, we're not going to accept expired passports anymore. So it used to be where if you come to the border of the U.S. and your passport expired, CBP will still let you in. But they just announced, like, yeah, in one page or in one liner, like, we're no longer accepting expired passports. You have to go to the embassy to get a new passport. And with COVID and stuff, it's not as easy. So, for yourselves or for anyone traveling as U.S. citizen, just public knowledge that make sure you have enough time on your passport. I'm guessing they're still going to let people in because it's so much headache, but they're saying on their statement on their website, CBP, that they're not going to accept expired U.S. passports when people come to the United States. So be prepared for that. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about, I try to just get in like a marketing thing. I think it was last week, the week before, I talked about the importance of putting out a newsletter. And, it's one of those things, like, listen to what I say, not what I do. It's been 6 months since I published my newsletter because I got so busy. But I did go ahead and publish my newsletter. And at the beginning of it, I mentioned, okay, Biden created this U4U Ukraine program where you come in pretty quick, get a client getting here in a week after filing. It's insane how fast it works. And then I had this client from like 4 or 5 years ago who was Ukrainian on the list. And he immediately replied and said, look, my sister's been trying to get out. They kept denying tourist visas. What's the deal with this program? And I was like, I felt so awful because I was like, I should have sent this newsletter. I was too busy, but I shouldn't have been too busy. If I send this newsletter out like 4 months or 3 months or whenever U4U came out and listed this, that was that much earlier that we could get started on this case. One, so that there's 100,000 cap limit on U4U. So that, I'm not sure if it's run out yet. It's probably not run out, but if it does, it's going to be bad. Secondly, like, this person, the 3 or 4 months for them to become aware of the U4U program until they come here, they might, Russia's probably bombing like cities, indiscriminately. There's civilians getting killed here. So you could have saved a life. So when you think about immigration law, it's not all forms. When you think about sending a newsletter out, it's not all sales and marketing. You literally could save someone's life. And, I feel really bad now. I'm like, this weekend I was feeling awful. I'm like, wow, my failure to send out marketing material, someone's life may have got ruined. So it's like the marketing material is just so much deeper than just paying the bills. It's like get information out there that can change people's lives. Because again, that's what we do. As always, you've got to remember, immigration law, you're changing people's lives. You're making the world go around for people to get where they need to go. You're helping them through this really difficult, dark time in their lives to get them safety, get them to success. And so we play a crucial role. So any marketing and sales that we do is to the benefit of people. We're trying to cure them of an ill. So always think about that from now on, when I do my newsletters, I'm running late. I'm like, no, this information in there could save someone's career, could save someone's life, could save someone's family member. Don't put it off and be like, oh, it's just marketing material. No, it's life-saving material, and it should be thought of as that way. Because again, this U4U, just one example. There's just a bunch of stuff. Maybe a business case might have some changes. Maybe a removal case law has some changes. Like this whole TPS thing, I got to put it in there. It might be a person that could get TPS, and they're like, oh, we could get admission and then fix things up and cure it. why not do that? This information is there. Now that creates work and business for the firm. That's a side note here. At least the person knows that this option exists. So then they can go to a pro bono place if they want to do that, or do it themselves, whatever it is. At least they know this information is there, and you played your part in helping them take advantage of things that are there for them to help them out. So I always try to lead with a marketing material thing. This one's kind of repetitive, but it really at the point, it's really important to know. It's personal too, to get it out there and get the content out there. Don't put it off, and don't think of it as like a money making scheme or look negative towards it. It really literally could save people's lives in certain instances. So please check out the magazine, the Immigration Lawyers Toolbox magazine. So much information. I did one article in the new issue that came out about EB1As and really going into a lot of nuances and things to beware of. You're trying to learn that practice material. If you're interested in coming to a workshop, live workshop starting in Los Angeles, probably going to be like 6 months or so. But email me, let me know if this kind of stuff interests you or what city you're in interests you, so I can have planned out and start doing regular workshops with colleagues all over the country, so we can develop the community on the level that I like to do it, which is you see from this podcast, getting real and talking about the law and really doing some good work to make the best practice area possible to elevate the practice and the practitioner. Until next one, God bless, be safe. Bye-bye.